cross the road and never even look one way. I always seem to know the perfect thing to say, and I don't even wait.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone, and to you. Thank you for joining me here on the Feedback Loop. Let's get rid of that guy. This is my live show all about creating, recording, and releasing your best music. This is the first episode of this show here on my YouTube channel here on Studio Live today. So this is a show that I've been doing over on the Garageband users Facebook group for around about 4 or 5 weeks. Which is all about creating music and making and getting questions from you about your music creation. Not specifically about Garageband, but I do talk a lot about Garageband and about mobile creation and mobile recording, mixing, mastering, all of that jazz. So I have a bunch of topics from the last week that I have been talking about and that I have been chatting with you good folks about. There's been lots of chat in the comments in the show today. We're talking about the new Garageband version on iOS. So we have version 2.3.7. I'm going to talk about so it is going to be a bit GarageBand centric. I'm going to talk about why GarageBand doesn't suck and why some people think it does. So that could be an interesting topic that I'd love your feedback on. We're also talking about releasing music. So whether you're releasing to SoundCloud, to YouTube, to Facebook, to Spotify, Apple Music. I released a song yesterday, which is a song that you heard at the start of the show there. So we will talk a little bit more about that. We will talk also about importing and exporting. So getting your music to places and using different sounds, using samples and being able to import and export samples and your music and your sounds. So that is just a taste of the few things that we have. We've got on the live stream, we've got Mr. Ponk80, we've got Gary Foley, we have Michael Holmes, and we have Improvisation. Welcome to everyone. Welcome to the stream. Welcome. Good morning. If you're here in Australia with me, it's early morning. It's 6:30 a.m. here. I think it's around 1 or 2 p.m. in the US, and it's probably late at night for our European and UK friends who are joining us here on the live stream. So thank you. Thank you very much. If you're watching on the replay, this is something I did try and do a live event. So I apologize if you were waiting in the lobby of the live event. I then had to delete it because yeah, I'm an audio guy, but I'm learning this whole video caper, so I'm learning how to work out the streaming and the stream keys and all the different things with the OBS broadcasting and everything else going on. So we will get there. I will actually have a scheduled live stream that you can actually come to and be here at the start of in the future. But for now, if you are watching on the replay, thank you as well. We also got Mr. Alan Cook from the UK, 8 p.m. over there in the UK there. And we've got Higgy Drums, my man Leonard Higgins. Welcome everyone to the live show here today. So the way this works is, for those who haven't been with me on the show before, is that we're live streaming and we are talking all about mobile music recording, creating, releasing, and a lot of GarageBand stuff as well. But I also want your questions. I want your questions, your feedback, and your opinions, because that is what it's all about. I've got a lot to say, and I could sit here and rant for the next 30 minutes quite easily, but I want your input as well to make sure that we're talking about things that you want to hear about and the questions that you have about your creating. Because after all, my tagline here on the channel is I'm helping you create, record, and release your best music. Hello to Pippa Shaw, who's joining us live here, and Mr. Ponk80 has just thrown a super chat donation my way, which is amazing. Thank you so much, sir. I appreciate that massively. I wasn't even going to mention that on this first live stream, but yeah, if you are looking for a way to support me and to support the channel, you can throw a super chat donation here on the live stream, as Ponk80 has just done. So thank you greatly for that. Other ways you can support me are to play my music. So just search Pete Johns on any of your streaming platforms, and you can also go to studiolivetoday.com/merch, and you can get a cool I was about to say a cool t-shirt like the one I'm wearing. I'm not. I've got my Recording Studio Rockstars t-shirt on today. But if you are after a Studio Live Today t-shirt, you can do that as well. So I don't do the Patreon thing or anything like that, not yet anyway. But yeah, if you're looking for ways to support me. Anyway, let's jump in and start talking about what we have on the show here today. So my title topic, or the topic I was going to make a video about, and I probably still will make a standalone video, but there was some discussion this week about, as there usually is in the recording industry and the recording world, about digital audio workstations, so DAWs, and whenever DAWs come up, people start talking about Garageband and their opinion of Garageband and what they think about it. And there's varying opinions. Like, most people in my community, I guess, use Garageband, so we're probably a little bit of a biased bunch in that we like using Garageband. We use Garageband to record our videos, so we record our music, so we have a certain opinion. And what I was thinking about this week is that I wanted to talk about why Garageband doesn't suck and why some people think that it does. And really, to understand this, we kind of have to go back into history. So Garageband, when it was first created, was on the Mac. It was 2011. Someone like Patrick Baird can correct me on that, but it's a long time ago. Steve Jobs stood up there on stage. He had singer-songwriter names, escapes me, guy there, James Blunt? No, it was someone like that. Anyway, and they were using it. And Steve basically said at the time, Garageband is a music creation tool for people like me who don't create music, who aren't musicians. So from that point on, there has been this perception, there's been this mindset that Garageband is for people who don't create music. It's a toy. It's something for amateurs, for beginners, for people that don't understand music. What happened, though, is that from then till now, in the 15 years of development for Garageband, there has been a change. So it has evolved, it has become better. And a lot of people that are hanging on to those opinions that Garageband is a toy, Garageband can't create good sounding, professional sounding music, are still thinking of that Steve Jobs keynote from 15 years ago where he said, Garageband is for guys like me that can't create music, that aren't musicians. But I think we've proven over time that that's not the case. And now, to understand this, or to put this into context, when you think about music and you think about recording music, if you think about the actual quality of the music that you're recording, that is kind of platform independent. So people that say, I get a better sound when I use Pro Tools, or I get a better sound when I use Reaper, what they're meaning is the workflow, so the plugins, the effects, the EQ, the things that they can use in that, they find it easier to get a better sound. The actual sound being recorded, and this is a really important point, that if you have an interface that supports what is pretty much the industry standard, so 24-bit audio, 44.1 kilohertz sample rate. Don't worry if that means nothing to you, but just think that's your basic. If you record into Pro Tools, you're recording at 24-bit, 44.1 kilohertz. Now, yes, you could do 96 kilohertz, 192 kilohertz. You can really up the sampling rate and then get giant files. But if you're recording regular audio, it doesn't matter if you're recording into your iPhone with GarageBand, that has 24-bit, 44.1. Or if I record into Reaper on my, through my Steinberg UR44 here, that is 24-bit, 44.1. So the actual audio quality that you're getting going in is, if not exactly, is very close to the same. Now, that wasn't always the case. So GarageBand used to be 16-bit, so it wasn't as good at audio quality, especially on iOS. Again, that has changed. That has updated over time. So that is sort of my number one point, I guess, around why GarageBand doesn't suck. And the other point to make there is when people say, "Oh, I don't want to use that," it's that you should choose the digital audio workstation. You choose the platform that has the best workflow for you. So it is not about quality generally. It is usually about the workflow. So what works for you? And I've used a bunch of different DAWs, and what works for me and for my workflow is GarageBand, because it is simple. I pick it up, I arm a track, I start recording. There's not a whole lot of stuff that you have to do. You don't need to work with a bunch of different templates. Yet a lot of other people would go, oh no, I'd be lost without my 120 track Pro Tools template that I can use to plug everything into, and my mixing tracks and everything else that I do, my sends, my receives. Then that's totally fine too. And I'm certainly not here to convert anyone to GarageBand. In fact, if I've had questions from people that have said, oh, I use Logic, I use Cubase, I use Nuendo, I use Reaper. Should I come over to GarageBand? You're always talking about GarageBand. And my answer is no, because there's going to be a learning curve moving from one to another. It doesn't mean you should never move, but if you move from one to another, it should be for a reason. It should be because there is something that you want to do, that you can't do in your current platform. And that is really, in my view, the only reason that you'd want to move. If you're creating music and you're happy with the platform you're creating music in, then keep creating music in that platform, because as soon as you stop and you move to something else, then yeah, you're going to stop creating music. The exception might be if you're like my friend Ponk80 here, who just loves hacking and fiddling underneath the hood. Maybe you'll go, I've done everything I can in GarageBand. I'm going to crack onto Cubase's now and try and be the Cubase's hacker. Then absolutely, if you enjoy it and if you want to do stuff like that, then for all means, go your hardest. But yeah, for just someone said Pro Tools is better, I should use Pro Tools, doesn't really gel with me. It's not really my vibe. So a couple of other points I wanted to make, and please chime in the comments if you're here live. I would love to hear what you have to say. We've got Police Robotic 9 to 5 is here again, and Ola, hello from Spain. Hello to you too. So why do people continue on? Why is there still this diatribe around GarageBand and what the problem is with it? Well, people that are coming at me and you and other people to say you shouldn't use GarageBand, there's a few reasons why. So if you want to give them the benefit of the doubt, then it's probably that they genuinely don't know what GarageBand can do and what it is capable of now. And that's something that I've come across a lot, that people are like, I didn't realize that GarageBand had plugins and effects and EQ and automation and the ability to export WAV files at 24-bit 44.1. Like all of those things, I think a lot of people, and why would you? If you're not using GarageBand and all you remember is that Steve Jobs monologue about it not being for musicians, then sure, maybe you don't actually know that. So I think giving folks the benefit of the doubt, that is where the majority are actually coming from. And they actually are genuinely trying to help people. They're saying, I use this and it works for me. So, why would you use that toy when you can use this real software and get real results? So that's probably number one. If we wanted to take it to number two, which is the few people that are, I guess, a little bit more negative in the way that they put it across there, they're probably feeling, there's a concept called sunk cost bias. What that means is that if you buy a thing, if you spend money, if you throw out your hard-earned cash on a particular thing, then that is suddenly going to rise up in your opinion. So if I buy my Taylor guitar that's sitting over there somewhere behind me, I spent $1,000 on a Taylor guitar. Suddenly, I'm telling you how good a Taylor guitar is. If someone comes at me and says, you should buy a Martin, I'd be like, nah, my Taylor is the way to go. So that's because that's my sunk cost bias. I'm like, I've spent $1,000 on this thing. It's pretty good. And if someone has spent, $800 to buy Pro Tools, or I think it's like a subscription fee now, actually, it's a different model. Don't get me started on subscription fees. If they've spent that money, then they're probably going to be thinking, I want other people to be using this. I want validation that the money I've spent and the time and the effort that I've committed to learning this system hasn't been in vain. So I've actually been able to get value out of this. So they want to bring other people along for the ride. They want people to join them. And it's a classic thing. I mean, you don't have to look too far to see Mac versus PC, to see Android versus iOS and the flame wars and the things that go on. And the whole reason I wanted to talk about this is that I think everyone just needs to relax, take a big step back and a big deep breath and say, whatever you use to create. And that's why my channel's not called GarageBand. My channel's not called Mobile. It's not called anything. It's called Studio Live Today. And the reason for that is your studio is whatever it is. So it's your phone, it's your tablet, it's your PC, it's your Mac. Live just means right now, just do it. The best time to start something is 5 years ago, but the second best time to start something is today. So do it now. And today, yes, today. So all of the reasons that, when I started this, I was like, okay, I want people to realize that the studio is wherever they want it to be. Live just means everything can be happening right now. And today means the best time to start doing your music and creating your music is today. So thank you for listening to my rant. You'll learn that on this show I do rant quite a bit, especially if there's no questions. So if there are questions in the chat there, throw them out there. Otherwise, warning, I've got 15 more minutes and there's probably 3 or 4 more rants that we've got to go through after I have a little bit of a drink. So the reason my voice is croaky, I had a cricket match that I went to Friday night, Australia versus South Africa, which Australia won, yay, hence why I'm hoarse from yelling at that. I had my hockey PA announcing job yesterday afternoon, and after this show I'm heading to the hockey again because unfortunately the Sunday games, the women's team don't get the ice time in the afternoon, I know, so they play in the morning on Sunday morning, so I'm going, plus they're playing Perth, who have to fly back to Perth, so A little bit of information there that you probably didn't care about. But anyway, hello to a few other people who have joined us. We've got Augie, I've talked to Mike Holmes is here, Pippa Shaw, Ponk80, Gary Foley, Improvisation. We've got Rajesh, we've got David Hoybear. Welcome to you, sir, and thanks for coming along. Yeah, I did have a few issues with the live event and the live stream. We will get that under control in the future, I'm sure. So let's move on from GarageBand. But yeah, look, if you do have any comments, I'd love to hear from them. If you're on the live stream or if you're watching on the replay, your comments on the live stream don't hang around. I know, it sucks. So if you do have a comment after the show, I'd love it if you dropped it in the actual comments section of the video. It just means that other people will get to hear your amazing points and views that you have, which is very cool. Alrighty, we had a new version of GarageBand. Speaking of GarageBand, we had a new version, 2.3.7, and we had a lot of new features. It didn't look like there were a lot of new features. My friend Ponk80 here is always the first person to clue me into a new GarageBand, so I woke up on whatever morning it was, Monday, Tuesday morning this week, and yeah, Ponk80 was already saying, hey, new GarageBand, and it's got new drummers. So it wasn't even in the release notes that we had new drummers, but we have the new songwriter drummers. And let me know, give me a shout if anyone's tested out those songwriter drummers. If you're a GarageBand iOS user, they are very cool. And if you're not using GarageBand iOS, then I promise we're not talking just about GarageBand all day today. But yeah, GarageBand iOS is just so accessible, and if you're not already using it, why not? If you've got an iPhone or an iPad, it's free and it's cool. So download it and use it. If you need help doing that, you can check out the video I have. Just search Pete John's GarageBand update, and you'll get a view of that. You'll be able to find me. Excuse me. Yeah, so Leonard Higgins, who is a drummer, loves the new drummers. The new drummers were there before the update. Okay, so there you go. Yeah, so they must have snuck those in, but they just happened to land at a similar time because, yeah, no one kind of knew about them before the update. So yeah, you're right. They weren't update related specifically, which is probably why they're not there. So Apple just consider that as a sound library update as opposed to an actual update. But if you haven't caught up, the other things that we had in there was the wah pedal on the touch guitar. So the new guitar, the retro wah, actually sounds pretty good. I think it's probably the best sounding guitar, maybe because you get to use the wah pedal on it. But that was very, very cool. And then the keyboard shortcuts. So I did a live stream a couple of days ago about the keyboard shortcuts. And then my buddy Patrick Baird over at the Garagebandguide.com, he did an update video as well. And he was kind enough to link to and reference my video, which is pretty cool. I'm a bit of a Patrick Baird GarageBand Guide fanboy. So if you don't already follow and subscribe to Patrick, thegaragebandguide.com is where you should head. Don't forget the in front of it, thegaragebandguide.com. He has got some amazing information, not only about GarageBand iOS, but also GarageBand on the Mac. So if you are a GarageBand Mac user, head over to Patrick's site, because I know nothing about Macs, although I think I might be buying a MacBook Air. Yep, I think I might actually be owning my first Mac computer at nearly the age of 40. Just a little bit of inside information, bit of a scoop for those folks here on the live stream. Yes, and Ponka said that the new wah pedal is being automated, which I think is cool too. Yeah, so the ability to be able to automate it. So before it was very manual and you had to, like, I don't know what they were thinking, but with the wah pedal on the amp sim, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you have to play the guitar and like do the wah at the same time. I think I made a joke that you need to get a friend over to do your wah for you, which sounds all kinds of wrong. But yeah, new GarageBand iOS is always fun. Always love it, and always have a good time in GarageBand. Speaking of GarageBand, I completed my latest song. Finally, it's the song that you heard at the start, if you were here at the start of the stream, which probably none of you were, because, yeah, the live event didn't work so well. But my song, Never to Blame, is in the process of being released. I live streamed yesterday the releasing of it using DistroKid, which is my distribution platform of choice, and it should be hitting your Spotify's, your Apple Music's, your iTunes's in the next day. So if you haven't checked that out, you may do that. And if you haven't listened to the song, yeah, I'm asking you to search for a lot of things. I'll try and put some links in afterwards. I was a little bit disorganized this morning, but if you search Pete John's Never to Blame, then you'll come across that song. And if you're releasing your own music, then I've said this before, but I always want to hear it. I love it when people drop a comment and let me know when they're releasing songs, because especially when they say, oh, I wasn't planning to do this, but then, you know, I watched some videos and you showed me the benefits of releasing music, and now I'm going to put my own song out, and here's my single, here's my EP, here's my album. Those sort of things are really cool and really inspiring. And for those folks here that are from the Garageband Users Facebook group, you know that the best thing you can do to improve your music and to take your music up to the next level is to actually share it and to get feedback. So when you're sharing with other people, it does a couple of things. It makes you feel pretty good because you're getting something out to the world. You're able to sort of have a finished product. You've got it done and there it is. It's released. Whereas if you hang on to it, you tend to go tweak, 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 keep tweaking. And then you can also get feedback. So feedback is super important, whether it's positive feedback or negative feedback, constructive feedback, whatever, it is really important. And being able to accept and understand feedback is really, really important because it helps you not make the same mistakes the next time around. And it helps you grow and develop. So if you're, for instance, I won't use a specific example, but a few people have shared music recently, and what I've noticed is that their levels are too high. So they're really pushing it. They're pushing the compressor, they're pushing the limiter, they're pushing their volume, and they're getting sort of some pretty harsh pumping. So the compression or the distortion that's kicking in at the top end, they're peaking their signal. And you can really clearly hear that if you're listening back to a track. But the problem is when you're mixing it, when it's your track, when you record it and you mix it and you master it, you kind of not get deaf to it, but you kind of do. I've done it myself. I've released a song, and who was it? It was Leif Bjork, who's over on the Garageband Users group. I'm not sure if he's here in the stream today, but he gave me some great feedback because I was mixing my song and I'm like, I can't hear the vocals, I'll turn them up. I can't hear the vocals, I'll turn them up. And I eventually released a version of this song, and Leif was like, Pete, your vocals are just too darn loud. He didn't say it like that. He's a very pleasant, polite fellow. But my vocals were just too darn loud. Like they were right up here. And I'm like, oh my God. I tried to get my vocals to cut through the mix and be present and upfront. And in the end, I've just buried all of the music. And it's a tendency that I have. So I wouldn't know that, or I probably wouldn't have recognized that if I just kept creating. I just keep pumping out these songs where the vocals are way too loud. So now I'm making sure I'm pulling up the rest of my mix. My vocals are still there and present, but I'm making sure that they're sitting in the mix and that they're balanced in the mix. So that's my personal story of the benefit of using, feedback and getting people. And yeah, it is. Ponk said it's often a beginner's mistake. So, and I kind of blame GarageBand for this. If you're using GarageBand or any DAW, because the analog way was to push your levels up until they're almost sort of peaking. So get your level, like you really wanted some of that analog warmth. You wanted to push your volume until you were like almost in the red or just tapping the red. And in analog, if you limit, so if you actually clip, it's called soft clipping. It's not actually as harsh. In the digital world, digital clipping means it just destroys your signal. So you don't want to be there. You want to be sort of half to maximum 3/4 the way up your gain meter. And if you go too high, then if you move in on the mic and do something like that, then suddenly, bong, you're going to peak. And I probably just didn't take my own advice. I'm checking my mixer here, and I think I actually peaked doing that example. So clearly, do as I say, not as I do. Cool. So, as I said, some good chat going on here on the live stream. If anyone does have any questions, we have 6 minutes left in the stream here. These shows are usually an hour. I'm doing half an hour today just because I'm not sure my internet connection can handle more than that. And I had a few issues with the event. But when we get happening and when we get the notifications and when everything's working, then we are going to get into it. So, Rajesh has said a live loops-based project DJ type tutorial. And yes, so I've been working on this for a while. I've got all my notes together, but I just need to sit down and record the video. But I am doing a full live loops tutorial. I did a bit of a live loops versus GarageBand track view overview, I guess, a couple of weeks ago. Yep. And at the time I said, yeah, I'm going to have a live loops complete tutorial coming up. And then GarageBand put out a new version and a bunch of other things happened. Plus I lost my camera battery charger. So I haven't had my SLR camera for about 3 weeks. So if you notice the quality of the video slightly degrading, it's because I'm using my phone for everything right now. But a new charger arrived yesterday. So I'm going to have camera batteries so I can actually record decent quality video as of today. So that is going to be coming in the works. But yeah, Live Loops is pretty cool. I haven't used it enough. I need to use it a lot more because it is a very cool way. It's not the way that I create music, but I think it is good to get way out of your comfort zone. And I think Live Loops is something that is way out of my comfort zone. So I'm really keen to crack in and try more of that. So Mike Holmes here, I heard a tip from someone that said, turn the track volume right down and the last thing should disappear should be the vocals, but only just. Then the vocal music balance seems about right. That's a really good tip. I'm going to totally steal that one. So let's just unpack that. So said, turn the volume right down. The last thing that should disappear should be the vocals, but only just. Yeah, mixing at low volumes. That is a really good tip, and that's something that I don't do enough of these days. If you listen at a high volume, then yeah, everything is kind of going to come together nicely. So you start turning the volume down, different frequencies sort of fade out at different times. It's why you can hear bass frequencies. So if you're like, if there's a club a couple of blocks away or a car playing really loud music or a house party, you're hearing doo, 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 but you're not hearing like the topper going weep, 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 because the high frequencies are not actually there. So yeah, if you're turning your volume down, again, you should be able to hear the vocals, but only, like, they should be the last thing to disappear. That means your vocals are going to be just a little bit above everything else. It's not going to be drowned out by your bass, not going to be drowned out by your other instruments. A great tip for you. And Ponk80 said, sadly, no call-in videos possible on YouTube. Well, there actually are. So that's the other question I have for you. And this might be my question of the day. Sorry, I know a lot of YouTubers say question of the day and they want you to comment. But I genuinely want you to answer this question, which is, I can do these actually as a Google Hangouts Live, which means that I can actually bring people in. So I'd probably need to do some testing. Sounds like you're volunteering, Ponk. To see if we can actually do that. But if people are keen, the problem was I did the feedback loop and we had guests on, we had people coming on live for a few shows, and then the last couple of shows no one came on live or wanted to. But I'll throw it out to the audience that if folks do want to come on live, then by all means let me know and we can do separate shows, or we can incorporate this into a Google Live Hangout that we can get other people in on as well, which would be very cool. Alrighty, so I think we are nearly out of time. We've got 3 minutes left. What other topics did I have here? I might need to, what I'll do is I'll keep the importing and exporting sounds to another one. But there was one question that I did have in the last week, and I'll end on this one, and releasing music. So I've talked about SoundCloud. I had a video during the week on SoundCloud, had a video on DistroKid. So I probably don't need to talk about much of that, but if you are interested in releasing your own music, then head on over to the channel at watch.studiolivetoday.com, and then you can check out the DistroKid or the SoundCloud videos and go from there. But one question I had is and it relates back to the use of different platforms, different DAWs, is can you export stems from Garageband? Now, on the iOS version, you can't, not easily anyway. On the Mac version, I think it's the same. Someone correct me. Someone let me know in the comments if it's possible on Mac, or link to a video that shows how to do it. But in iOS, unfortunately, you can't export stems. Now, what are stems? Let's take a step back. Stems are individual tracks. So think of you exporting a song. It mixes it down to one stereo file. A stem is each individual track. So you've got 16 tracks of audio. You export it, at the moment, you get a one wave file that mixes that down to stereo. What if you wanted all 16 tracks individually? So maybe you could throw them into another digital audio workstation, or you could use them separately, send them to someone to remix or to master or do something with them. Well, yeah, you can't actually do that. The way you can do it takes forever, but you solo each track, you export as wave, and then you go back, you solo the track, you export as wave, and you end up with track 1, track 2, track 3, track 4, and then you have all of those wave files. So yeah, there is a way to do it, and maybe I just need to do a video on that, because I get this question again and again, and I keep sort of having to say, well, you can, but you can't, but you sort of. So I think that's probably one that I'll do a video on this week, which is how to export stems or individual tracks from GarageBand. Because sometimes you do want to do these sort of things. You've got a cool drum loop or a cool beat, and you just want to export that, and then you want to like play live over the top of it, or you just want your backing drums and bass separate so that you can mix them in when you're playing live, or do something like that. So that is a cool thing that yes, we can't do. Alrighty. And the folks are chatting about being colorblind, which is it is a hassle. Like, funnily enough, small anecdote, and then we're going to finish off. So I'm not colorblind, which I'm very glad about, but I know a lot of people who are, and I was doing the PA announcing for the hockey yesterday, and I'll take a photo, or maybe I'll do a quick video from there, but the two teams, one was wearing like purple and green, and one is wearing red and blue, and I'm just sort of looking out there going, my goodness, I can barely tell these two teams apart, and if someone that was colorblind is doing this, then they're going to be in a lot of trouble. And then the scorer who was sitting next to me is like, yeah, the linesman there, he's colorblind. And I'm like, oh, great. So the offsides and the offside calls are going to be a little bit dubious today, because he's going to be like, no, they weren't offside, and it's the other team. Anyway, we're not here to talk about hockey. We are here to talk about, we're talking about Garageband, and to talk about music creating, recording, and releasing. So, excuse me. We are at the end here, so it's time for me to do my sign-off. I did get to most of my topics, and we had a couple of little questions there to go. Ponk has said time to do some STEM research. Yeah, STEM tracks, not to be confused with stem cells. A little bit different. Alrighty. Well, thank you again. Apologies for the issues with the event and the live stream and everything else. So if anyone's watching on the replay and you're like, hey, I signed up to this event and I got a schedule and a reminder and then it was deleted, yeah, I'm really sorry. We'll get that happening and fixed up. Head on over to studiolivetoday.com if you want to catch up on everything that's going on in my world. That is the place that I hang out. The Garageband users Facebook group is at studiolivetoday.com/GBU. And a lot of the folks here on the live stream are from the group there, so thank you guys for joining me. If you want to buy a t-shirt, or if you want to do a donation like Ponk did, thank you very much to Ponk, who did a super chat donation here. Love your work there, or head on over to studiolivetoday.com/merch if you want to pick up a t-shirt and support the channel, or just watch my videos and stream my music, which is the absolute easiest way, because you get free content and you get to hopefully learn a little bit about music creation, recording, and releasing. That is going to do it for today. Thank you again for watching, and I'm going to see you on the next video.